two chapters today, and that would be Occlumency and The Beetle at Bay. Sort of odd chapters following after each other. We do, of course, have the narrative flow to it, where we're using the escaped convicts to sort of bridge the two chapters here, which seem to relatively not have a whole lot else to do with each other, except for one key thing, and that would be learning to work with people that you don't want to work with. These two chapters seem to sort of argue with each other about what the focus should be, simply because we do have this very tense chapter with Occlumency and Snape's not positive way of doing these lessons, and then the sort of start and middle of The Beetle at Bay, where we somehow get this date with Cho that goes horribly, horribly wrong, smushed between the escaped convicts and Harry finally getting to tell his story in a more public manner. So the date with Cho seems to sort of be the odd thing out. But I'd like to sort of look at it as this example of how relationships on both ends can be very difficult. And then we surprisingly actually have sort of... yeah, but we'll get to Rita Skeeter on that end of things. Snape is a dick. I don't think I'm ever going to like Snape. We are going to, of course, come to a video very soon about the one time that I can sympathize with him and feel sorry for him. But everything running up to this point makes that actually really hard. Because what we're actually having here is something that we're all going to face at some point in our life, probably multiple times, possibly even just every day of our lives, and that is working with somebody that we don't want to work with. Personalities just don't jive, or opinions just don't jive, or there's an open dislike between people, which is what we have with Harry and Sirius. Well, we have it with Sirius and Severus, and then we have it with Harry and Severus. But what's even worse is Sirius and Severus, at least, are the same age, and they have a past history together. Neither of them were good with that past history, and neither of them have matured at all, and it's just that you're going to have people like that who are not going to get along. But then we have Harry, and really notably, it's not Harry and Severus, it's Harry and Snape. Harry and Professor Snape. So right away we have this power imbalance that a lot of people, again, are going to recognize simply because we've had teachers like this, we have bosses like this, we have managers like this that we don't get along with. And Harry here is sort of trying to make this work. When Snape puts his foot down and says, "You'll address me as sir or professor," Harry's like, "Okay, sir, yes sir, sorry sir." And he's even trying to add it on when he realizes that he forgets, because he wants answers. And there is actually a point in this conversation about occlumency where you could picture this happening between people that actually do get along. We do have something of an informative conversation here. Except it really does seem to be Harry that is trying to make it work. When Snape says, like, "Don't say the Dark Lord's name," you'll notice Harry actually tries to stop himself from saying it. And we usually only see this happening with people that he cares for. He'll stop himself around somebody like Molly. With his friends, he's starting to insist, same with Hermione, is starting to insist that, no, we need to be able to say this name. But around sort of the adults he cares for, he will try to avoid it. So the fact that he's trying to avoid it here does say that he recognizes he needs to sort of try and control himself. The problem is, this type of relationship really doesn't work if we only have one person trying to control themselves and the other lets loose. Except in this moment, we like to look at Snape and say that he's not trying to control himself. He takes a lot of digs, and he really does look like he's enjoying insulting Harry and not providing any information here. You can't just tell somebody to clear their mind and have it magically work like that. It's not how it works like that. There are steps to being able to do something, and you can't just drop your emotions. It's not how your brain works. So we want to get really angry with Snape here. Except in some ways it does look like he's trying to make this work a little better. Most notably, he gets rid of some of his worst memories about Harry's family. Yeah. Like that really humiliating thing that James and Sirius did to him, that then led to him calling Lily a mudblood and ruining that relationship. Severus takes that out of his head. He makes himself forget about that for the first little bit to then be able to focus more fully on Harry. So we do actually have this removal of information in an attempt to make this relationship, which is to say, of course, that it points out that sometimes these relationships simply aren't going to work. Harry is not going to be able to learn occlumency in this situation simply because there is too much animosity between the two of them. And throwing them together in a case like this, where the power imbalance is already present and in fact deepened by the fact that Snape has this ability that Harry's trying to learn. You need to trust somebody to have them mix around in your head, and that trust simply isn't there. So I think this chapter shows that in a situation where you need to make concessions, definitely try and make concessions. But if it's a really unhealthy situation, and it's in fact making things worse, which it really is, we don't actually see any improvement in Harry's occlumency. It does get worse, and Voldemort's going to take advantage of it. If it's a toxic situation, you really need to stop. Sometimes it is simply not worth trying to work together, even if the goal seems like a really positive one, if it's literally going to drive you both mad, which is exactly what we're going to see here. Harry starts crossing boundaries. Snape continues to be absolutely horrible. And while after the chapter with Snape's worst memories, Harry does have a little bit of a better understanding of the man, it's still never going to be a situation where this can actually be overcome. Simply because Harry's never going to be able to see completely this wounded child that Severus was when his father was a dick, because of the pain that Snape has put him through. This bullying adult is a lot harder to pity than the bullied student. And unfortunately, while the image of the bullied student can inform Harry's opinion of the bullying adult, it's not going to erase Severus' sins on that one. And the thing on Harry's part is that Snape's never going to be able to see him as anything other than a copy of his father until the very end. And even then, it's going to be your mother's eyes. Severus cannot separate Harry from Harry's parents. And that would be a key thing to actually make this relationship work. To see them as different individual people. Which simply isn't going to happen here. And in fact, we can see even a relationship we want to have work that is falling into the same trap. And that's why we have the date with Cho Chang following shortly after. Is simply the straight up fact that sometimes these things are not going to work out. Cho has difficulty separating Harry from the events Harry went through with Cedric Diggory. And that is the thing that she's drawn back to. Harry, in truth, has difficulty separating her from really the group of girls, the Quidditch player, and also from Cedric Diggory. So the fact is, even if both Cho and Harry want this relationship to work, it's proving to still be toxic to both of them. And if you can't see each other as individuals, then you need to be able to let it go. So it's really interesting to actually have that, oh, I'd like to have this work, versus I need to make this work because consequences. And show that sometimes these relationships aren't going to work. These friendships aren't going to work. These classes aren't going to work. And you have to be able to let it go, especially if it's affecting you. Except for Harry, he can sort of let Cho go. And recognize that, okay, dating her is not going to happen. But he's in a situation where he can't say no to this set of lessons with Snape until Snape does. So are his actions fueled by that recognition? And how does Rita Skeeter play into all this, then becomes the question. And that's sort of the interesting thing is, okay, we've had the toxic, no one wants to be here. We have the toxic, we sort of want to be here, but for probably the wrong reasons, and it's not working. And then we have none of these people really like each other, but they've got some common goals, and they can admit to not liking each other and deal with it. Like, straight up, it's not any of this call me sir, yes sir thing going on. Rita Skeeter calls Hermione Little Miss Perfect, and Hermione just takes that and runs with it. And she's straight up like, this is the situation we're in. And you're gonna do it for free. Or I'm gonna tell the world that you're an illegal animagus. And Rita just has to go with it. It is the oddest relationship that we actually see in these chapters. Because in their mutual dislike for each other, they're not trying to play at niceties. And they're actually effectively getting more done than the people who are trying to play at niceties, aka Harry and Professor Snape. So, if it is a mutual dislike, then perhaps that is the understanding you can actually achieve. I don't like you, you don't like me, but we have to get this done, so let's just do it. We'll do it as quickly and effectively as we can. And then we'll be done and we don't have to interact with each other anymore. Maybe that is the honest-to-God way that Snape and Harry have to go around this. Simply because we do know they're never going to have a positive, equal relationship. There's always going to be the power imbalance. There's always going to be the dislike because of past events. So maybe if you go into it like, okay, straight up, you don't like me, I don't like you, neither of us want to be here, but both of us have to be. Just tell me what I need to do, and let's do it. Which actually does seem to be that conversation that we ended up having. about occlumency where things actually seem to be working, with neither of them sidestepping the fact that they don't want to be here, but we need to get this done. Not exactly the most positive way to go through life, but unfortunately there simply are going to be people that you don't get along with. So if you can recognize that and overcome it anyways to get what you need done, then I guess that's what you have to do. And straight up, if people are really bad for you, and they're going to put you in a bad place, let them go. You don't need toxic people in your life. Especially in a situation where you're probably forced to be around other toxic people. The relationship between Harry and Cho simply isn't going to work. And it's going to have to be something to let go. Because he has to deal with Professor Snape for the next year and a half. Okay. You want to try and have, like, but you can overcome things, and I honestly think you can overcome bad feelings and things. But you're not going to be able to do it with everybody. So I simply think that this is the set of chapters that shows that. I'm going to keep reading, and I hope you do too. See you next time.